Good afternoon, everyone. So this is Unit 1, Section 4. We've done some stuff with variables and double, integer, that kind of stuff. So now we're going to look at using those to actually do math within a program. Okay. So these are things that aren't just built into the program. This will be another thing that we have to import, like the scanner, and we'll talk about that. But first, just some basic math review here. So we look at number 1. We have absolute value. Okay, remember for math class, absolute value is a distance from 0. Okay, a distance from 0. So it's always positive because distance is always positive. So the absolute value of -5 is 5. Okay. Number 2 is an exponent. Now we have our base, which is 4. And hopefully I can write okay with this stylus. And then the 3 is our actually exponent. I know that's a little hard to read. So basically this means 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 again is 64. So it's key to know the base and the exponent. This is a square root, number 3. So for number 3, the square root of 64 equals 8. Now this is, number 4 is that modulo. Okay, so what that is a remainder. And I know we've gone over that. So 30 divided by 4 is 7 with a remainder of 2. So number 4 is actually just going to give you that 2 as an answer. That's what the modulo is. If we look at number 5, if I could talk, 27 divided by 4, 27 modulo 4. So 27 divided by 4 would go into it nicely 6 times, and there would be 3 left over. And now remember, order of operations, this is almost like a multiplication or division. So before we do the addition in the middle, we want to do this multiplication. 8 times 6 is 48. Now we can add because of the order of operations. And number 6 is rounding. So remember, 5.6 rounded to the nearest integer would be 6. It's going to round up. Anything 0.5 or greater will round up. 0.4 or less will round down, or 0.49, whatever you want to say. So that's that. Don't pay attention to that real quiz tomorrow. So we go to the next page here. Let me actually see if I can do this. That might be a little bit easier. So the math class. Remember, we had some operations that we could do that were built in. These are things that we can't do. So just like with the scanner, we have to import this at the beginning of the program. So like your first line, maybe your second line if you're doing the scanner, is importing it. Okay, and here are some examples, and there are more. These are going to be the 4 that we talk about for now at least. We have the absolute value. Okay, notice you're just putting the number or the variable in the parentheses. We have the square root. Again, just the number or the variable in the parentheses. So you can either just assign it a number, which probably doesn't have as much meaning because you can just figure out the square root, or they're typing something in and you're using that variable. Math.round. And just for all of these, notice the capital letter here with the math. And then the math.pow, that's where you put your base first and your exponent second. And those can be the numbers or the variables again. So it has to be base first, exponent second. So if you were doing that 4 to the 3rd power, then this would look like math.pow. And then in parentheses, the 4 would come first and the 3 would come second. Okay. All right. So one of these is already done, but here's a list of variables we have. Okay. So if we wanted to find the math.abs of A, that's saying the absolute value of A, which was -5.0. Now notice all of these are double variables, so they can all have a decimal, but this would just be 5. math.square root of b. So b up here is this b right here, which is 144. So the answer to this would be 12. Math.round c. So we see c here is 4.6. That would equal 5 because 4.6 would round up to 5. Now for this last one, math.pow. Or parenthesis a comma d. Our a was -5. Our d was 3. So if we type that in, or if we think about exponents, that's -5 times -5 times -5, which would equal -125. All right, so here's an example program. Okay, notice the beginning, we import the math class, our toolbox. We have our normal stuff here and here. We initialize and declare some variables. So we have the base is -5.0, exponent is 3, and then we're going to have a new variable name called calculate exponent in camel case. And we're just setting that equal to 0. But then when we run the program, we change that. So we're kind of overriding that, and we're putting this. Now remember, our base was -5 and our exponent was 3. So when we calculate that, which we just did on the last page, that's going to be -125. So what this would print out is the base, that's not in parentheses. Okay, so that's going to be the variable. So -5, and then to the power of is in quotation. So that's going to print out exactly like that, of exponent. That's not in parentheses, so that's the variable. And it would actually print out, I should put 5.0. Equals is going to print out every time because it's in quotations to the calculate exponent. And then the period at the end here is in quotation. So that would look like that. That's what would print out on your screen. So just a quick review. Pythagorean theorem deals with right triangles. Okay, and it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b are legs, c is the hypotenuse. So if we want to have somebody input 2 legs, and figure out what the hypotenuse would be, our equation would look something like this. So notice we have a couple things going on here. We're going to need to use the math.pow for this one. And then for the big one here, we're also going to use the math.square root. That's SQRT, square root. So what we're doing there is basically saying, remember when you solve an equation, you want to undo things. So we're taking the square root of all the sides, and that leaves us with the c equals the square root of a squared plus b squared. So in terms of what variables you would need, you would obviously need like an a and a b. Okay, you'd probably want something like a squared and b squared variable, and you can call those whatever you want. You would maybe need a variable that had the like sum a2 b2, so that when you added those two together, you would need a c squared variable, and then you would need like a square root c2 variable, and that would be your final answer. That would be your c, which you could also just call that c, whatever you want to do. So here's your program. And you can see they up here, I shouldn't say they, but whenever I did this before, I named the variables a little bit different. That's fine, whatever works for you. So you're going to ask the user to enter the lengths of 2 legs of a triangle, computes the hypotenuse of the right triangle, rounds the hypotenuse, so you're going to need another variable, uses at least one comment, and prints the value of the hypotenuse and the rounded value in a statement. So you're going to have both printed, so you would need 2 different variables for each one. So I'll show you a program, writing a program that does something somewhat similar, and then we will, and that'll be in a different video.